Good morning. I wanted to make a quick little video about pruning with some brambles, you know, your raspberries, your blackberries. So flipping around over here. Right now what I have is an established bed that's been here for a couple years, so 3 years to be exact. And so we have a line of raspberries that extends about 40 feet down. And I've been starting to prune these now. So this is what I wanted to get kind of side by side. This is what I'm taking off, is the tops of these, so that they're only about 2 feet high. It's not rocket science. And this type of pruning is one where we're not it's morning. All right, we're not really too careful. We don't have to be crazy careful about buds and stuff like that, which is nice. One of the things that I'm doing right now is just kind of chopping off the tops. Now what that does is it encourages these canes as they grow up. I don't necessarily see any from last year because I probably chopped them off, but what they'll end up doing is they'll do something like this where they'll branch out, actually like this. It forces, so this was one that was chopped off from last year at the top about 2 feet, and what it happens is it forces new growth for it. So what happens is you'll have a new cane. This is a new cane from last year, and it fruited in the fall. Yes, we hear you. It fruited in the fall. This year we cut it off at about 2 feet, and what happens is it spurs this type of growth. And typically the cane dies in that second year. What we have here is a couple varieties. So we have some canes that are, we have some canes that are a little less vigorous than others, but they'll both behave in the same way. So what'll also happen is I'll be coming through and just kind of snapping these out and taking these out, either kicking them at the base, those canes from previous years. So you see that this is kind of like ungangly, or that is gangly. It's just kind of like leaning right over. And so it also helps to really open up this row and make it so that I can keep mowing. So that's actually a good thing about the placement of this, is that the chickens, because it's right here, the chickens and their scratching keep these berries from extending and growing further in that direction. And the mowing, because I have this path here, just the constant mowing stops these from invading and moving further out that way. You'll see that I have mowing paths in between all of my brambles here. And so where I don't have mowing is at the edge of this row where it bends around here. And I've got a few canes here, and what I'll end up doing is every year I pull these out so they just don't keep extending down that row, because this is, again, like another 40-foot row of rhubarb, and the canes will grow straight up through the rhubarb and everything. So we've also got blackberries here, and what you'll see that's different about blackberries is that they have a crown. Rather than lots of canes popping up, you'll have a crown of canes that'll be productive. So where you plant your blackberries, you'll tend to have new crowns will pop up, like right here. This is probably about like 8 years old. We've got one crown was planted over here and it eventually died out, but a few new crowns took over. Now these blackberries, they want to reproduce not by shooting runners under the ground, but by having long stems that eventually touch the ground and reroot. And so that's why the growth structure of these is just ever so slightly different than the raspberries that we have here. And so we've also got a different variety of raspberries here. You'll see that these aren't as vigorous growers as the ones by the chickens. That's one, because they're not getting fertilized like those ones by the chickens. The ones by the chickens actually get the runoff that helps to feed them. But it is also naturally, this strain right here is one called Nova. And it is naturally just a smaller growing one, but it is still prolific. Back to the blackberries. So these are ones where you can get a bit of fencing or wire and kind of tuck these in and as they grow out, you keep tucking them in. What I end up doing with these is I look at where this arch bends, and to keep my mowing path clean, I end up lopping it off here. And you can see from previous years, what does that do? It ends up shooting out more side growth, where you get more blackberries. So some people don't prune these, and they just have them, kind of trained inward. I definitely do prune them. And again, also removing dead canes every year. So yeah, they're definitely, these are much more, like this cane right here is basically, 5 feet tall at its height. It's pretty high. And so what we're trying to do is just kind of trying to maintain it so that we can get in there and harvest. Having it be like crazy, grown over like this, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's that it, like when you get into harvest, it's actually just like inefficient and it's hard to see. You have to imagine leaves all over all of this, and that you're trying to find the berries, and maybe it rained the previous day, and some of the berries are, might start to rot with fungus if it's not opened up and it can't get dried out. There are benefits to pruning it and keeping it organized so that you can get in there, find the berries before they start to rot. So yeah, I think that's it for brambles. They're pretty easy. These are Primo Canes here, which means they'll, so these are raspberries that have Primo Canes. These have a singular cane where they fruit right at the end. And these you actually, I'm actually not going to get into it in this video, but there is a little, the pruning for these is just ever so slightly different. But again, you can see the growth habit for these. They're like long and spindly, and they fruit like right all at the end, which is really nice for harvesting. I mean, really, the pruning is very much the same, where you're gonna like cut it at the end, but you don't have to look all over the plant for the berries. They will all fruit in one little cluster, which is nice. All right.